Some cousins. You already know what time it is. Na, 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 na. Animated horror stories. Na, na, na. Animated horror stories. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Where are we going today? We are going to our good cousin SSG Animation's house. Why? Because it's the first day back. As you can see, I'm spoiling ya. I think you got um, two 30-minute, 40-minute animated horror story videos. I dropped three, not two, but three, might be four. Who knows? Go check, might be four. Of music reactions that I've listened to since I've been gone. Like, go check them out, please and thank you. All right. This one is four true creepypastas, horror stories animated. I think this and I jumped on it. Why? Because I loved creepypasta when I was growing up. Found it in middle school. It was the best. All right. Gotta get some chapstick on. All right, let's get up into it. So please go grab your blunts, grab a blanket, grab a bottle of water. And I feel like there's another bee that I've been missing in these videos. I'll figure it out. I might have to even go back and watch a video of mine because what is the fourth bee? I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue. If y'all know what it is, please leave it in the comments below. Please, and what else? Subscribe over here. Subscribe to SSG Animation because you know support is free. And that's our cousin. But our cousin since day one. Say one. All right, and let's get up into it.
For a person who is permanently traveling like me, it's a very strange thing to not like hotels. But you know, I am very justified in doing so. People don't like hotels for different reasons, but very few have reasons like me to hate them so much. I mean, how many of them almost got gutted in a hotel? It all started one night in July. I remember that particularly that day it was much hotter than the rest. I was coming back from dropping my kids off at my brother's house. My wife and I used to work a lot of jobs, and when the two of us would agree on a short trip, my brother was always helpful in taking care of my son. Besides, he loved to play with his cousins, even though they lived far away. I was driving back down the road, but my car started to run out of gas. This had been completely my fault. By doing everything in such a hurry, I missed things as important as this. Knowing that I would soon run out of gas in the middle of nowhere, I decided to stop a little early and stay in a hotel. The hotel was neither too good nor too bad. It was the typical roadside hotel that had just enough to survive. And although I didn't expect much from this hotel, I admit that it managed to surprise me, even though all the lights worked and it even had a fan and a cable TV. I asked for a room, and after taking a hot shower, I decided to watch TV for a while and go to sleep. And that's when it all started. When I opened my eyes, I woke up confused and forgot where I was. When my vision started to clear, I swear I saw something in front of me.
Immediately, even out of the little glimpse of my eye, I would have hopped up so fast. So fast. Because no, you are not over in my in the corner of my room dressed as Jeff the Killer. I know you're not. I know you're not.
Someone was standing in the corner of the room.
No.
Understanding where I was and knowing that someone could have gotten into my room, I cleared my eyes and looked
Why would you clear your eyes?
No one was there.
Okay, so
still worried, I turned on the light and checked the whole room. No one could have entered, the door was locked, and could only be locked from the inside. Just in case, I looked in every nook and cranny of the room and found nothing. Not the slightest indication that anyone had been in the room with me.
You checked that drawer?
Was my vision failing me?
You rub on the wall.
Maybe it was an all-too-real dream that mixed with reality and made me believe that there was someone in front of me. Even though I was sure that there was no one with me, this time
I have glasses. I will never put that much doubt on my eyes. Never. I can't see nothing without these bad babies, and I promise you, if I see something without these bad babies, I seen it.
It was much more difficult for me to fall asleep. But eventually, I did. I fell asleep with the TV on so I could light up the room a little. But when I woke up again, this time I was sure that someone was with me, since I could hear him walking. As soon as I opened my eyes, I could see perfectly that there was a person in front of me.
No.
This person was white. His eyes and mouth were very marked, and his look was completely insane. The person was walking in my direction in the dark, very slowly while looking at me. Every step he took, it was as if I was not aware that he was walking towards me, even though I was directly looking at him. It was at that moment that I realized that he was not walking towards me. He was walking towards the television. As soon as he reached the TV, he reached his fingers to the switch and turned it off. Suddenly, the room was filled with absolute darkness.
And you watched
My
him?
eyes
Why are
may
you
have adapted to
watching
the
him?
light, but this was not normal. Even without a television, you should have been able to see something of the
Why
room,
are
but
you
it was
watching
completely
him?
engulfed in darkness.
You watched
You
him
couldn't see
turn the
anything
light
at
off.
all, as if you were in another dimension. What I could do was listen.
Oh,
Terrified
God.
and paralyzed with fear, I lay in bed listening slowly to this person's
Why?
footsteps towards me. This time, there was no TV in the way or anything that could attract his attention. The footsteps were directly towards me. I reached quickly to turn on the bedside lamp, but it didn't work. Thinking quickly, I pulled out my cell phone and activated the flashlight mode. I quickly pointed the cell phone at the source of the footsteps, but to my utter surprise and confusion, there was no one there.
You better not go
I
your ass
shone my
back to
light
bed.
everywhere, but nothing. It was as if, once again, whoever was with me had
Is he on the
disappeared.
ceiling?
As
We
I
ain't never
searched,
seen,
I heard a noise
CREEPYPASTA.
coming from another direction. The
Above
only
you?
place I had not yet
Above
searched.
you?
It was on the roof.
Uh-huh.
That wasn't a human. It couldn't be human.
What'd
It
I
was stuck
say?
to the ceiling like a spider. As soon as I saw it, it looked back at me and suddenly fell to my bed, trapping me underneath it. I
Why are
tried
you
to move,
still
but
in
I was
bed?
so scared and frozen with fear that my body didn't respond. I could only watch him crawl in
Frozen
slow
with
motion
fear
from the
will
foot of the
always
bed to my
piss me
face.
off. I
Once he
promise
reached my
it will
side, he
always-
opened his mouth and let his
Ew,
saliva drip down on top of me, eager to hurt me.
I would have been like, ew, please just stop spitting on me. You can stab me, just stop spitting on me.
Knowing how scared I was and the fact that I was so scared I couldn't move, the monster pulled back my sheet and left my body exposed to him.
He's gonna
As
stab
if he
you.
were a cat playing with its prey, he pulled back my shirt and looked at me again, amused by the
And
fact I was crying
And you're still laying there. I don't even know what you said your name is. Where are we? 432. Did he say hi, my name is? Slim Shady?
For a person who is permanently traveling like me, it's a very strange thing to not like hotels. But you know, I am very justified in doing so. People don't like hotels.
Alright. You don't have a name. We'll call you Roy.
I was crying inconsolably.
Why are
Once he
you
did
still
this, the
laying
man
there,
began to
Roy?
scratch my stomach violently. The pain was unbearable. There was no way I was going to survive it. The scratching was getting stronger and more violent, and it was tearing my skin. My skin was splitting open. More dizzy than I'd ever been in my life, I managed to come to my senses and gave him a hard blow on the head that knocked him off the bed.
Finally.
In great pain, I ran to the front
Now
door, but
you
it was
wanna kick
locked.
him.
I grabbed the key that was a few inches away from me, and I tried to put the right key in. As I
Oh,
did
God,
so, I
how
turned
many
around,
keys?
and there he was, sitting on my bed with a big smile on his face, staring at me and amused by the fact that I was so desperate that I couldn't even open a door. I managed to open it and ran as fast as I could. I ran through the hotel to my car, and once I was about to get in, I turned around to look at the hotel. What I saw left me frozen once again.
What you see?
The hotel, it was abandoned.
Oh.
There was nothing left of the hotel I had
Ain't
originally
that
seen.
some shit?
All this time, I was in a ghost hotel. There was no one in it. The walls were destroyed or not even there.
Look
The
down.
walls were
The
full of
wound's still
mold,
there?
and in front of everything, a big sign indicated that the place was closed. You know what the worst part was? I could see the room I was in from the outside since the wall of the room was missing. That room was never locked. And the bed where I had slept was rotten and full of maggots.
He could've just
As I took
ran
a better
through
look,
the-
I could see that
jumped
someone
through
was
the,
lying down.
Wall.
It was the man who was chasing me. Suddenly, he got out of bed without difficulty, and after getting into a spider position, he ran towards me with all speed.
You
Just before he
standing
caught
there
up with me, I
walking.
jumped into my car and accelerated as fast as I could, leaving that scary place behind. Once I was home, I
That's
canceled my
insane.
trip and went immediately to see my psychologist, who said that everything I experienced was caused by the stress I was under at that moment, and that he would be
You a
seeing me to see
lie.
how I would evolve.
You a damn
When I
lie.
described what I
I
saw,
would
my
not be
children
seeing
assumed
him.
that something else
He
had
just
happened
wants
to
the
me.
motherfucking money.
According
I
to my
promise, 'cause ain't
descriptions,
no way.
that night I met Jeff the Killer, a terrifying monster who was known to be in one of the most popular creepypastas on the internet.
One of the best.
When I saw the picture of Jeff the Killer, I started crying in
I
front
would've
of my
peed.
kids. It was like reliving that terrifying night all over again. I had no idea what that being was and why he decided to torture me to the point of almost killing me. I only know that I
just
lost
did
a little
shit
more
like that
innocence that day and
after he
started to
killed
believe
his,
in everything. Who knows what you
family.
might encounter tomorrow? Have you ever seen this man in your dreams?
No.
This image is
not
one of the
today.
most popular on the internet. This man is known to be part of a mass hysteria, where everyone in their sleep claims to have seen this man.
Okay, 'cause I was gonna
It is
say,
said
he
to be a
ain't
man who
creepypasta.
travels from dream to dream, stalking all his victims with his eyes. I always
Well,
thought
if
that
you're
this was
not
part of a
there,
great
you be-
paranoia and coincidence, and it was by
Downstairs, you be
believing that
inside.
maybe I got too close. It was because I didn't believe in anything that I almost played with something I didn't have to play with, and that almost cost me my life. I got too close to this man, trying to prove
I almost judged you, but then you said you don't believe in nothing. But I don't know, because I know people who don't believe in nothing and they don't play with nothing. Because the best way to stay safe is to keep your ass out of harm's way. Just because you don't believe in nothing don't mean nothing don't believe in you. Amen? Amen.
that he was a fake. Not only did I discover that he wasn't, but I also discovered that he is a ruthless, horrendous, sadistic monster who doesn't kill us in our dreams because he can't. It all started when I was a teenager. I was surfing the internet watching horror stories when I came across a creepypasta image I had seen before.
Is
Have
he
you seen
creepypasta?
this man in your dreams?
I ain't never seen
Looking
him.
at the image, I must admit that it looked quite familiar, but not from my dreams, but from seeing it all over the place. Unlike other times, this time it caught my attention and it made me a little curious. I found out a bit more about the image and was a bit surprised. Normally, no one can attest if urban legends or creepypastas are real, but this time there were many people saying they saw that man in their dreams. They all agreed with the same anecdotes. They all said they started dreaming about this man walking towards them slowly. Most of the time, everyone who saw him had sleep paralysis, but many times they were just in a normal dream. Until this person would appear and it would turn into a nightmare. In all the dreams I saw, no one tried to approach him. Everyone would run away or be paralyzed in their beds, while this man walked slowly towards them and never came. Honestly, I didn't believe in any of this. I mean, I believed people's stories, but they were all conditioned by having read about this man before. I'm sure many had dreamed different things, but they would have related what they read about him and adapted their dream to that anecdote. Whatever it was, I didn't believe in anything. Although I must admit that reading so many things about this story made me want to dream about it, and according to the rules of the internet, it wasn't very difficult to do so. It could happen any time. But one of the main things that increased the chances of meeting this man was reading the story and thinking about him a lot before going to sleep. I admit that when I went to bed, I was a little scared. I couldn't stop thinking about that image, and even though that was always my original intention, all the stories made me so uncomfortable that I couldn't stop thinking about him even if I wanted to. I mean, at the time, I still thought it was all just a big collective paranoia, but hell, that image was really creepy. Doubting if I was doing the right thing, I closed my eyes thinking about that macabre image and praying not to dream about him. A few hours ago, I wouldn't have imagined in any way that I would have been so scared, but that image had a great effect on me. It really shocked me. But that didn't mean anything. I was going to dream about this person and I was going to prove that it was all a big lie. As I went to sleep, I let everything flow. All I could think about was this person. I tried not to erase his face at any moment, and as soon as I decided to go to sleep, I fell asleep. Since I fell asleep, I already knew something was wrong. I had never had such lucid dreams. In my dreams, I was always in fantasy places, altered versions of my home, or even places I visited in my past. This time, it was different. I was in my house, in the same bed where I had fallen asleep. But it was strange. I knew it was a dream. I knew I was actually in my bed sleeping. Just to be sure, I pinched myself in my sleep, which I always do to make sure I'm in the middle of a dream, and I noticed that I felt no pain at all. It was confirmed that I was sleeping. The first thing I did was to get out of my room and walk to the dining room. I was prepared to look for this man. but there was no need. He had already found me. As I looked into the dining room at the back of the house, there he was. It was that man in the distance. His face was exactly the same as in the photos. Was I having another case of collective paranoia? It was obvious that I was going to dream about him if before I slept he was all I thought about. I decided to prove my point by doing what no one ever dared to do. Go to his address instead of running away from him. As soon as I saw him and confirmed that he was looking at me, I started walking towards him. What started as a walk quickly turned into a jog. I kept running further and further. Even though it may have been a few meters, being in a nightmare, it extended for several seconds, as if this man was a block or two away. But this was not useless, and I knew it. He was getting closer and closer. I could recognize his face more and more easily. I was about to catch up with him, and both he and I knew it. Once I had him a few meters away, I approached him more slowly. He didn't try to run away or make any strange moves. He, accepting my invitation, also wanted to come closer to me. As he did so, I began to notice strange things that no one had ever said about him. Every time we both got closer, I could notice how his body was changing. He looked like a 6-foot-tall person. His eyes started to turn red and his teeth became sharp. At that moment, I realized what was happening. This man seemed to want to meet me and I wanted to meet him, but he was a hunter and I was prey, heading of his own free will into the tiger's mouth. At that moment, I was so scared, and even though I still wanted to head toward him, anxiety got the better of me. I turned around and ran back to my room. But I couldn't even take 3 steps. The man in the picture, the man everyone dreams about, was behind me. This had never happened to anyone before.
Because they ain't never
managed to
want to go
escape from
touch.
him, and I was the only person innocent enough to face him instead of running away. Once I had him behind me, the man grabbed my shoulder and sunk his teeth almost half a meter into my shoulder. I screamed in pain. I may not have felt anything with the pinch, but this was real and I felt it. I fell to the floor and began to crawl towards my room. The monster seemed to let me go and walk beside me, just for fun. After advancing a few meters, the man stood in front of me and opened his mouth in front of my eyes. The mouth opened inhumanely.
No.
It opened to a size impossible to achieve in any human. As he did so, the black hole in his mouth seemed bottomless.
Bro.
As he brought it closer to my head, I could hear people crying from inside it. People crying for help, children, adults, even babies crying. These were all victims of the man. No one could ever tell this story because no one who had gotten that close had survived. I was mesmerized by the desperate screams of the people.
Don't be
the man's mouth came
mesmerized. Get up,
closer and
get away.
closer to me. I could feel the huge teeth digging into my skull. I could feel how he was about to start swallowing me. The saliva was dripping on my face and I could do nothing but freeze. I was about to die, possibly in a horrible way, and I knew it. And I couldn't do anything about it. Suddenly, it was all over. I was alive. I opened my eyes in my bed and found my sister, worried about me after she slapped me hard to wake me up.
Period.
She told me that I was screaming desperately and she couldn't wake me up. Once I woke up, my sister told me worriedly that I was bleeding, that I had very big and strange marks, as if someone had bitten me. I also felt marks on my head, and I remember perfectly every little thing that had happened to me. That was the day I realized that everything was real, and had nothing to do with a collective paranoia. That was the last day I let my curiosity get the best of me. I never again provoked anything paranormal, and in order not to think about what had happened and provoke the monster to come back, I take some sleeping pills and think about absolutely nothing. I know that this is a double-edged sword because if for some reason I dream about him after taking pills, nothing and no one will be able to wake me up, and I will be at the mercy of whatever that is.
Not if you stay your ass in bed.
Have you ever heard of a smile dog?
Mm-hmm.
If you were my age and were a fan of creepypastas, you must have seen this image on the internet.
It have.
The terrifying face of a husky smiling in the shadows, and behind him, a bloody hand saying, "Spread the word." Today, this might not cause the greatest fear, but back in the day, this was really scary. I was always one of those melancholic people who didn't want to let go of the past.
Not if you were a creepy
I was
person.
always more attracted to the old than the new, and the internet era brought back a lot of melancholy since I was a teenager. What I didn't know is that melancholy would bring me a lot of problems because, as I learned one night, some things are better forgotten in the past and buried forever. It all happened one Saturday night at my house. I had recently separated from my partner, so I wasn't in the mood to go out with my friends or do too much. I decided to spend that day in the darkness of my room, reading old stories, playing video games, and reading creepypastas. It was in the middle of the day that I discovered a very strange website. This site was full of popular creepypastas, but it was very different from all the other sites I used to frequent. Normally, all the sites were full of skulls and satanic symbols, but this one was different. This one was normal with simple colors and a rather unusual design.
Is like sadness, yo.
But at the same time,
if you were wondering, like I was, what the hell is melancholy? I guess it's like passive sadness, typically with no obvious cause. So it's just a little sad with no reasoning. Just if you was wondering. Because I'd be wondering. I love to look up new words.
And satanic symbols, but this one was different. This one was normal with simple colors and a rather unusual design. But at the same time, something about it made me uncomfortable. I felt like I didn't have to look at it, but that only tempted me more to read it. On the page, there was a collection of several popular creepypastas, but one of them caught my attention. It was Smile Dog, one of my favorite creepypastas. I had already read it several times and I had no reason to click on it and read it again, but something made me do it. It was as if I was in a trance, as if I was hypnotized to open and read the creepypasta one more time. As I read it, I couldn't help but feel scared. Very scared. The creepypasta was identical to all the times I had read it, but this time it generated something it had never generated before. It was as if an oppressive and terrifying energy was coming out of every letter I was reading. I started to get dizzy. I wanted to leave. I didn't want to continue reading that story. As fast as I started it, I finished it. And to say goodbye, I found the picture of Smile Dog, staring at me with his dark and static eyes. A little dizzy, I left the computer and decided to go to bed for a while. I had had enough of these stories for today. When I opened my eyes, I woke up a bit annoyed. I was supposed to sleep for about 40 minutes, but my alarm clock hadn't gone off and it was getting dark. I woke up uncomfortably sleepier than I had been, but I had to do things before going to sleep, like cooking and tidying up the house. I put on my slippers and was about to head to the kitchen, but something made me stop. The house. Why was it so dark? No matter how dark it was, there was always some light in the house. There was always light coming in from outside. There was always some instrument on, or the refrigerator was making some noise, but this time it was different. The house was in absolute darkness and silence, and you could barely see what was happening a few meters ahead of you. I carefully approached the light switch, but even though I tried to turn it on again and again, nothing was happening. Was there no light on the whole block? Suddenly, I was distracted by a noise behind me. It came from behind the bed. It was like a laughter that became more and more intense as the seconds passed. It was a laugh that sounded familiar, but I didn't know from where. While I was trying to figure out who was in my room, I noticed how a figure began to slowly peek out from behind the bed. Was it a dog? No.
Wait, stop playing.
But it wasn't just any dog. It was a husky, but it looked very familiar. As I looked at it, something was rising inside of me. The dog became more and more familiar, but at the same time, an enormous terror was growing inside me. From one second to the next, a strong memory came to me. I recognized that dog. That was the dog from the creepypasta I had just read. That was Smile Dog.
Earlier today.
Glad that I recognized it. The dog gave a big grin from ear to ear. The smile was the one in the photo, but it was much more theatrical in person. I could see all his teeth at the same time. His eyes that grew redder and redder with every centimeter that the smile grew longer, and the veins that ran all over his face until they reached the center of his eyes. This dog was the most terrifying being I had ever seen in my life. At that moment, I had the impulse to run, but my legs didn't work. I was totally paralyzed, as if a strange energy that was surrounding the house had taken over my body.
Everybody gets
Knowing that I could not move,
yeah.
the strange and deformed dog slowly approached me. His steps looked like those of a dog, but he seemed to be floating as if those steps were just to intimidate me more. Once it was a few inches away, the dog stood on two legs and moved its mouth.
What are you? Head? Don't ask nothing because he's gonna ask. He's gonna answer.
Spread the word. The dog had moved its mouth, but the words didn't seem to come out of him. I could see a dark shadow emerge from behind the terrifying animal that seemed to be the one who was actually speaking. It seemed to be the real identity that used the image of the dog to communicate. Once its terrifying words passed through my ears, everything went dark once again. We were plunged into total darkness. I could see absolutely nothing. Suddenly, I felt a breath hit my ear. That breath turned into a tongue that started brushing the tip of my ear and went deep into my ear. In a sensation of pain and absolute terror, I felt the tongue run all over my body. My only impulse was to scream, but I couldn't either. I could only cry and let that being run all over my body. And as it all began, it ended. With a dry scream, I woke up and got up from my bed sweating. It was hard to breathe, and my ears hurt a lot, as if everything I had lived through had happened outside of the nightmare. I nervously got out of bed and instinctively looked at the computer. It was on, and on the screen, the image of Smile Dog. Below the dog was the text, "Spread the word." From that day on, I never stopped having nightmares about Smile Dog. Every day I have the same nightmares, and they get more and more real. Today, I cling to my last hope, you. By showing you this image, I trust that you will experience what I have experienced.
You disrespectful
It may not happen
bastard.
tonight. It may not happen tomorrow.
You disrespectful bastard. Me sitting here like, Wow. You're trying to spread the word? Well, guess what? I rebuke that in the name of Jesus, the Son, the Father, and the Holy Spirit. I ain't dreaming about no damn dog. I got a dog.
It may even happen a week or a month, not happen tonight.
Here I am. Like, why ain't you just spread it to somebody? Why ain't you just spread it to somebody? You did. You sneaky son of a bitch.
That you will experience what I have experienced. It may not happen tonight. It may not happen tomorrow. It may even happen a week or a month from now. But I am confident that by spreading the word, the dog, or whatever that monster is, will stop harassing me. I'm sorry.
You shared it.
I'm sorry to do this to you guys.
Leave us alone.
Especially if it ever happens.
Leave us alone. Stop talking to
Just
us.
know that I'm doing it because I have no other choice. I'm desperate.
That's crazy.
And if this doesn't work, I guess I won't have to live long enough to tell this story again.
Ain't that some shit?
As the sheriff of a small county in Wyoming, I don't get to deal with a lot of crime. Small thefts and disputes between people are the most we usually deal with.
Ain't nobody
People are pretty peaceful here and believe in helping each other. However, the most horrifying case our country has seen to date happened 20 years ago. And unfortunately, I was there to witness it all.
What happened?
I love working the graveyard shifts, as it's pretty peaceful and I don't have a family back home who might need me at night. I let most of my pals do the day shift so they can go home in the evening.
How nice of you.
That night was no different. I had just finished my patrol and was sipping coffee by my desk. Our police station is close to the forest, so many times bears, wolves, or other wild animals visit our station and the neighboring houses. It's pretty normal for us. That's why we keep our doors and windows locked. Including me, there were 4 other cops on the graveyard shift. 2 of them were rookies and 2 were senior officers. While we were all busy doing our own things, we heard a high-pitched cry coming from straight out of the forest. Instead of being alarmed, we were all chilled. Sometimes some animals cry similar to that of humans, so it's usually nothing to be worried about. But when we heard this cry, not once, not twice, but 3 consecutive times. The 2 rookies were definitely worried. They kept looking through the glass window at the forest beyond. The bushes were moving due to the wind, and then suddenly, a woman came running out of the woods, straight towards the police station. She was crying, her clothes were dirty, her hair was a mess, and she looked horrible, as if someone was chasing her. We immediately rushed out and got her inside the police station. I sat in front of her while the other guys covered her with a blanket and made her a cup of coffee. But she wouldn't accept it. She just kept crying and crying, speaking in gibberish that we couldn't understand. We tried our best to calm her down, and after about half an hour, she stopped crying. "What happened, ma'am? Are you all right? What happened in the forest? Did you encounter a wild animal?" The woman's eyes were glassy, and she just stared at me for a second.
"I saw the severed head of a man stuck up a tree in the forest."
The moment those words left her lips, none of us believed her. "What were you doing in the forest, ma'am?" I asked once again.
Crazy, because why does that matter?
"I was smoking a joint."
Period.
Well, that explains what she saw. The woman was high, might have seen something else, interpreted it as a severed head of a person, and freaked out. "Ma'am, I think you should go home. One of our officers will drop you off. Please take care." The woman left, but not before turning around and saying,
"Y'all ain't
"The
shit."
head on the tree wasn't what scared me. It was the headless man I saw, roaming around the forest."
The woman left with that. I looked at my colleagues and we just knew that that woman was high and that we couldn't trust whatever she said. The next afternoon when I was home, I got a call from the office. My subordinate called me and told me that another man had exited the forest screaming just like the lady, and he too claimed seeing a severed head spiked on a tree branch. I got dressed and went into the station. The man from the forest was hyperventilating and told me that when he spotted the severed head, he freaked out, and then a headless man began chasing him. I didn't believe anything these people were saying. However, this man wasn't high or drunk. He was a hunter who hunted rabbits and small animals. We started searching the forest but found no head or a headless man. We concluded that this was just some sort of coincidence. But as days passed, more and more people who went into the forest claimed to have seen a headless man, or a man's head on a tree. But whenever my team searched the forest, we found nothing. When the news spread throughout town, people were scared of going into the forest. Finally, when I was fed up with all this, I decided to go into the forest all by myself at night. I followed the path that most people follow, and after about an hour or so, I was pretty deep into the forest. All I had was my gun and a flashlight. Many people conspired that it was some sort of spirit or an entity, but I didn't believe in any of that. As I was walking through the thick forest, stepping over overgrown roots and dried leaves, I heard footsteps behind me. But whenever I stopped and turned around, no one was there.
Oh, you have to look up and see the head.
This went on for a while, and then I turned unexpectedly and saw a headless man standing behind me. I'd like to say I don't believe in such things anymore. But seeing a headless man wearing dirty, bloody clothes is terrifying. I fell on my ass and screamed, trying my best to get away from the man. But instead of attacking me, he just stood there. I calmed myself. After some time, he turned around and started walking in a different direction. I wanted to get the hell out of the forest, but my gut told me to follow the man, as there could be more to the story. The man walked ahead and I followed him until he stopped below a tree. And when I looked up, I saw the severed head of a man on one of the branches. The moment I looked down to look at the man, he was gone. It was as if he disappeared into thin air. But the head was still up there. I climbed the tree to get the head down. I wore gloves and was extremely careful. The head was rotting and had maggots falling out of it. The stench was horrible. But I had a feeling that the headless man wasn't there to hurt me. Instead, just to lead me to his head. And there must have been more evidence around there. I called in backup, and within a few minutes, my whole squad was there investigating the area.
More head problems.
After 2 days of searching, we found the decapitated body of a 35-year-old man buried under a few rocks. It was so well hidden that we needed the dogs and some special equipment to find it. And to my utmost surprise, the remnants of cloth that were on the dead body were similar to the clothes worn by the headless man that visited me. It was clearly a murder.
Did you issue out an apology?
The forensic reports confirmed that the head was that of the dead man, but they found no evidence, no DNA of the murderer, no fingerprints, nothing. It was as if a ghost had committed the murder. We could find no family of the dead man, and it made the investigation even harder. We didn't know who he was or why he had been killed. My team and I tried our best to solve the case, but eventually it ran cold. But to give it one last shot, we contacted the woman who had first burst into our police station claiming to have seen the headless man for the first time. My team and I thought she might have been the only one who actually knew something. The moment we knocked on her door, we realized that it was open. So we entered the house, and it was a mess. We called out to the woman, but we got no reply. When we searched the house, we heard sobs from the bedroom. There was smoke coming from in there. The moment we entered, we saw the same woman curled up on the bed, crying. She had a joint in her hand, hence the smoke. We tried talking to her, but she kept on saying gibberish again, which didn't make any sense at all.
Gibberish again.
But one line she did say caught my attention.
I should not have done it. He was nice.
Wow.
Now he haunts me.
And then she began crying and talking in nonsense again.
It's not nonsense.
We left her alone and declared the case
Killed that man.
unsolvable. However, I think the woman killed the man.
Obviously.
Maybe she was high when she did it, or she did it on purpose. I don't know that.
All this on weed.
But to this day, this case remains one of the worst and most complicated ones ever. And also, the only case in which I encountered anything paranormal. Now, 2 decades have passed and the woman is a drug addict who keeps on repeating.
I should not have done it.
Yeah.
He was nice. Now he haunts me.
She told y'all that she did it.
What do you think?
I think she did
Who
it.
do you think might have killed that man?
The woman. She said it. Which was my favorite story? I feel like my favorite story might have been... I'll give it to the first two. I'll give it to just the killer and that little nosy ass boy. Because if you would have just minded your business and just stayed your ass in bed, you would have been good. It was your own fault that he came, bitch in the shoulder, opened his mouth wide, showed you the dead kids and everybody. Like, that was all your fault. You did that. You should have just, you reading it, watching it on the thing. You want it, and then you just walking toward him. He said, I'm big boss. He said, all right, bring your ass. You got over there and said, wait a minute, why you let me get so close? He said, because I want to eat you. Duh, dummy. Yeah, so those 2 ate. The other 2 ate as well. That last one just pissed me off because that woman ran up in there and told you that body was there. Y'all called her a high and a junkie. And then someone else come up in there, oh, but he wasn't high. You go out there, see it for your damn self. Y'all don't even go issue her an apology, but then you don't need to because she said, oh, I should have never killed him because now he haunts me. Lock her up. Jail time. Get more, get the blunt out of hand. Get her in an asylum. Put her on some meds so she clears her mind. She needs the meds because y'all told her that shit was not real at first. So now she thinks she's tweaking. That could be it as well. She could just think she's tweaking because she wasn't that damn high And then, now she's just haunted because her brain is like, if I didn't see it, what the fuck? Y'all didn't go there and say, hey, you was right. Y'all went there and said, hey, bitch, what are you doing? Why are you tweaking? She could have did it. I think she did it. Or I think she's tweaking because y'all went there and told her that there was nobody out there. What do you think? Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think she did it? Or do you think that it's the cops' fault that she was a junkie at the end? Let me know. Please go over to SSG. Like I always say, go subscribe over there. Go watch some videos. They've been posting. I'm sure y'all, if you have been listening to my previous videos and subscribing, if you're subscribed over there, I'm sure you watched these. So now you're just watching them with me. So let's watch them together. And until next time, I love you guys. Mwah. Bye.